Hello again, and welcome back to our powerful series, Saving the Scavengers, Understanding Vulture Population Decline. I'm your host, Chinweoke Uzoamaka Ike, and I'm honored to have you with me as we journey deeper into the shadows where these majestic birds are disappearing, often without a sound. In our last session, we pulled back the curtain on a brutal truth: how vultures, misunderstood and maligned, are being wiped out by hunting, superstition, and poisoning. We uncovered how ancient beliefs and modern crimes are stripping the skies of nature's most essential cleanup crew. But today, we expose another killer. Quieter, slower, yet devastatingly effective. One that doesn't strike with claws or fangs, but with absence. An absence of food, an absence of home. We're talking about food shortages and habitat loss, the invisible twin threats that starve vultures, push them from their nesting grounds, and drive them toward extinction. And the question we must ask is not just, why are they struggling, but rather, what have we done to their world, that it can no longer feed or shelter them? Now let's take a closer look. Let's begin with a stark truth. A vulture without food is a vulture that cannot live. These birds are nature's frontline sanitation workers, designed to find, clean up, and recycle death. But today, they're not soaring, they're starving. Here's why. Across Africa and beyond, large wildlife populations like elephants, antelopes, and buffalo are declining at alarming rates due to poaching, habitat fragmentation, and increasing conflict with humans. As these animals disappear, so too does the vulture's natural pantry. Fewer wild animals mean fewer carcasses, and without those, vultures have nothing to eat. In many farming communities, dead livestock is now quickly buried, burned, or removed. On the surface, that's a sign of better management. But for vultures, it's a death sentence. These birds once relied on open fields and grazing lands for a steady supply of animal remains. Now those opportunities are vanishing. Perhaps most tragic of all is the silent killer, diclofenac and other veterinary drugs used to treat livestock. These chemicals may be helpful for cows, but they're deadly to vultures. Just one contaminated carcass can wipe out dozens, sometimes even hundreds of vultures in a single afternoon. Entire colonies have collapsed overnight due to this invisible threat. These food shortages aren't just inconvenient, they're catastrophic. Desperate for nourishment, vultures are now flying farther, expending more energy, and returning to their nests too exhausted to breed or protect their young. Their populations weaken, their chicks starve, and their skies grow quiet. And sadly, this is just the beginning. If food shortages are the slow starvation of vultures, then habitat loss is the quiet erasure of their existence. You know, vultures are not birds of chance. They are meticulous in their needs. They require tall trees, rocky cliffs, and quiet skies. Specific places where they can safely roost, nest, and survey the land for food. But one by one, these places are vanishing. As human populations expand, so do our homes, roads, and farmlands. Forests are cleared, wildlands are raised, and savannas are turned into shopping centers. In both Nigeria and South Africa, field research revealed a stark pattern. Vultures are being pushed out of their nesting zones as farmland creeps into once protected areas. Their safe zones shrink, their options disappear. Vultures rely on altitude for protection. They nest in tall, mature trees and perch on towering cliffs, places far from ground predators and disturbance. But widespread deforestation, illegal logging and quarrying are stripping these ancient structures away. What remains? Open fields, low shrubs, and most heartbreakingly, no place to raise their young. Even worse, some of these forest losses are not slow or silent, but blazing. Wildfires intensified by climate change and human negligence sweep across dry landscapes and devour nesting grounds in minutes. These fires not only destroy roosting sites, they annihilate generations of chicks and eggs before they've ever taken flight. Even where trees remain standing, they're often just too close to people. Schools, factories, roads. For vultures, these areas are simply too noisy, too chaotic, and honestly, way too dangerous. The constant roar of traffic, the rumble of construction, and the non-stop buzz of human activity are enough to drive vultures away from nesting attempts. Breeding pairs abandon their eggs. Roosts fall silent. The result? Well, it's a world where vultures have nowhere left to land, nowhere safe to sleep, and absolutely no place to raise the next generation. Habitat loss doesn't usually make headlines, but it's quietly wiping vultures from the map, tree by tree, cliff by cliff, and really silence by silence. The disappearance of vultures doesn't come with thunderclaps or alarms. It comes with silence. It's a slow unraveling, a quiet collapse. When vultures lose their food and their homes, they don't just vanish overnight. Their decline sets off a chain reaction, like a falling row of dominoes, each one toppling something critical in the balance of nature. A hungry vulture cannot raise a chick. When food is scarce, breeding pairs lay fewer eggs, or sometimes none at all. And when chicks are born, nutritional stress weakens them, stunting their growth and making survival to adulthood a distant dream. The next generation begins life at a disadvantage, if they begin life at all. With fewer carcasses to feed on, vultures must fight tooth and claw, literally, against jackals, hyenas, and even packs of feral dogs. These ground-based scavengers are faster, more aggressive, and increasingly dominant. Vultures lose out, they lose food, and they lose lives. Desperate for survival, vultures take to the skies, flying farther and farther from home in search of food. But with distance comes danger. They soar into unfamiliar territories, only to face deadly power lines, vehicle collisions, and toxic waste they cannot recognize or avoid. Their long flights become death sentences. As habitats disappear, vulture populations are broken into isolated pockets, cut off from one another by roads, cities, or farmland. These small groups struggle to survive and breed. Over time, this isolation shrinks genetic diversity, weakening their resistance to disease and climate change. A fragile population becomes a doomed one. In the end, what we see is not just fewer birds in the sky, but a vital species teetering on the edge of extinction. And with them goes an entire ecological service that no other creature can replace. Unless we act now, the silence will spread. Numbers can whisper what the eyes often miss. Take a look at this model and graph. A striking model showing how vulture populations respond to changes in food availability. It tells a compelling story. At just 2.5 million kilograms of carcass availability, vulture populations barely hang on. Only about 2,700 birds by 2063. But increase that to 10 million kilograms, and their numbers soar to 8,500. Push it further, and in an ideal world, we could see up to 22,000 vultures by 2033. But here's the catch. Even with more food, populations still decline if hunting and poisoning aren't addressed. You could feed a forest full of vultures, but if the water is poisoned and the trees are falling, survival is still uncertain. Now let's go from models to the real world, straight into the field. Research around protected areas of southern and West Africa, and speaking to the people living closest to these threatened birds. Here's what we found. Surveys revealed that wildlife populations around conservation zones had dropped drastically. Where once vultures circled over healthy ecosystems filled with natural death and rebirth, now they find only emptiness. Fewer animals, fewer carcasses, and vultures, flying farther and farther away, leaving protected areas behind in desperate search for food. In interviews with local communities and wildlife managers, we kept hearing the same heartbreaking phrase over and over again. As our village grew, the birds left. In Nigeria, the story is especially grim. Forests, once thick, ancient, and alive, are being cleared at alarming rates to make room for what they call development for farmland, roads, and buildings. Nigeria has now earned the troubling title of having the highest deforestation rate in the world. And we know what that means. It's not just trees that vanish. It's homes for monkeys, chimpanzees, leopards, and yes, our sky dancers, the eagles and vultures. Cliffs once used for nesting are blasted away for rock and gravel. The quiet skies that hovered above nature reserves are now filled with dust, smoke, and the hum of bulldozers. Vultures, once seen soaring in circles like ancient guardians, have become rare, nearly mythical. They are no longer part of the everyday rhythm of the wild. They're becoming whispers in the wind, memories in stories, shadows in the sky. These aren't just data points. They're warning signs, and together they tell us something very clear. Without a multi-pronged approach, restoring food, protecting habitats, and ending direct threats like poisoning, vultures cannot recover. We cannot save them with just one solution. We must rebuild the entire web of support they once relied on. You know, it's easy to feel overwhelmed when you see the data, the destruction, and, well, the silence in the skies. But here's the truth. We are not helpless. We know what to do. And the solutions are not only possible, they're already working in some parts of the world. So let's take a closer look at what's bringing vultures back from the brink. Imagine, just for a moment, a place where vultures don't have to compete with hyenas or risk swallowing poison. That place actually exists. They're called vulture restaurants, specialized feeding stations where conservation groups provide clean, drug-free carcasses in safe, open areas. These stations offer a reliable food source, reduce the need for dangerous long-distance flights, and allow scientists to monitor populations closely. In parts of Asia and southern Africa, vulture populations are showing signs of improvement thanks to these feeding sites. One meal at a time, we're buying these birds a second chance. Farmers are, honestly, essential allies in vulture conservation. By choosing vulture-safe veterinary drugs, like avoiding diclofenac and switching to alternatives such as meloxicam, we keep carcasses safe for scavengers. Training farmers to understand their role in the ecosystem, offering incentives for sustainable practices, and promoting ecological livestock management can rebuild food networks that vultures depend on. Every safe carcass on a farm is a lifeline in the sky. We need to go beyond saving the bird. We must save the world the bird lives in. That means expanding protected areas to cover more nesting grounds, restoring tall trees and cliffs lost to deforestation, enforcing quiet zones around critical habitats, and reforesting degraded areas to give vultures their homes back. When we protect the land, we protect the life it holds, including the quiet guardians of our ecosystem balance. So what's next? With the right policies, community support, and international cooperation, we can ensure vultures not only survive, but thrive. Because saving vultures isn't just about saving a bird. It's about healing an ecosystem. It's about restoring balance. And you know, it's about recognizing that even the most overlooked species play a starring role in the story of our planet. Today, we've uncovered how food shortages and habitat loss, the quiet killers, are slowly silencing our skies. These aren't just threats to vultures. They're signals of a deeper imbalance in our world. Vultures are nature's emergency responders, cleaning what others leave behind, preventing the spread of disease, and keeping our ecosystems in check. When they disappear, it's not just a loss, it's a warning. But now, we also know there's hope. With the right actions, feeding stations, sustainable farming, and habitat protection, we can turn the tide. And we're not alone in this. We can do this together. Let's commit to creating awareness. One voice, one post, one conversation at a time. Tell someone, share with someone. Let the people around you know. Together, we create change. And don't forget to keep visiting this channel for more powerful messages and meaningful content. You'll hear inspiring stories from the field. Thank you for being part of this journey today. Together, we're not just learning, we're building a movement. So don't miss out. Subscribe now to join the journey, support the mission, and be the first to hear more vulture and other endangered animal tales from the field. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who cares about the planet. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, stay curious, stay wild, and remember, saving the scavengers is saving ourselves. I'm Chinweoke Uzoamaka Ike, and this is Saving the Scavengers. See you in the next session of Saving the Scavengers. Join me in the next session as we explore the hidden danger of food poisoning and its devastating impact on vulture populations. Together, let's discover how we can protect these vital birds from unseen threats.